On today's RPG Book Club, I finally make 10 actual friends. Alright, welcome to the RPG Book Club podcast, the game where we play long games together and we discuss them in the moment. I am Sam Allman.
And I'm Theodore from the Velvet Room. Hi, that's me. I'm kidding. I'm Michael. Hi, what's up?
I'm Sailor Elias Warren. Hi.
And today we're going to be discussing June. That's the month we're on? Yeah. We're going to be discussing June of Persona 3. And,
I think
yeah.
Tartarus time just flies.
Yeah, it flies. So this month was a little different than before. So normally we pretty much plot things happen once a week, and so we talk about those and we can pause in the middle and talk about it. This month was really plot light, but it ramped up the difficulty. If you call difficulty the how do I manage all of my friends, I don't want anyone to be mad at me. And
so it's literally real life.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking too.
Yeah, so this one's going to be a little more off the cuff. But luckily, we get to start talking about our first, legit dungeon of Tartarus. So, I think is that this one? Yeah, this is the second one we do.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So just like last time, I'm just going to jump right into it if that's fine with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Go for it.
All right. So just like last month, the little boy comes to tell you that you have a week until the full moon. He tells us his name is Pharos, but I think that's later, so I'll just refer to him as Pharos now.
Yeah.
But then the next day in school, the teacher told a ghost story, and I think the ghost story was a clever joke on pregnancy, but I didn't go back to check it because it was really horrifying and gross, and I really didn't want to experience it twice.
I remember looking at it and going okay, and then just pressing the X button. If I were a real student,
Yeah, yeah. I try not to read too much into it myself.
Yeah, just I think so.
Yeah.
All right, moving on.
These teachers are batshit. That's the reason why.
Yeah.
All right, time to tune the teacher out.
That's the actual reason why our main character always wears headphones.
Yeah.
He's oh, I can't deal with this today.
They're crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I hung out with Kinji, and I discovered how social links actually work with this date with Kinji, because he comes up to me and is like, hey, we should hang out after school. And Kazu comes up to me and says, hey, we should hang out after school. And I'm like, well, I have a Jack Frost, so I'm going to go hang out with Kinji. And then nothing happened on our date, and I stood up Kazu for nothing. Because the things you say on the social link give you a different amount of, plus friendship points or whatever with that social link. Mm-hmm. And if you say the wrong ones, you'll still rank up there, but you'll have to go and do some boring dates with them a couple more times before the next time will happen where you'll get another rank up. And so because the last time I got a rank up, I told him, you really shouldn't be this worried about your teacher. I thought I did okay.
So in real life, you get penalized for telling your friends good things. Yeah, okay, great.
Yeah.
And so I got the rank up then. I was like, okay, so I still did something right. But then when it got to this one, it just hand waved over the hangout because I wasn't ready to rank up, which I think is kind of cool. That the rank up ceremony is the reward for doing it well each time. But it annoys me every time it happens because I'm ready to all right, let's hang out with Kinji, let's see what's going on, and just you and Kinji enjoyed ramen, you two walked back to the dorm.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
So here's the thing, and I'm not going to spoil it, but I experienced something similar, and I don't know if the game purposely does it in a way that bars you from leveling up a specific arcana too fast or not. But I think it's because of the choices.
Yeah, I think it's because of the choices. That's what I thought. At the time that was happening, because I thought, oh, he's level 9 right now. He's way higher than everyone else. So that's why they're holding me. They don't want me to have level 10 until like next week. But then throughout all of the stuff I've been doing for the rest of this month, because I went to Tartarus 2 times in June. The rest of the time I was doing social links. So like through all of the other stuff, I saw like more specifically how it happened, and I also, spoilers, looked at a guide to make sure that I wouldn't make Yuko hate me, because I want her to be my girlfriend, and I didn't want
Yuko's a cutie.
She is really cute.
She's also she is a black girl who likes to eat and cares about kids, which is my wife. So
That's true.
so like I'm pretty on brand for the girl that I picked for my.
I believe technically the term would be ganguro, by the way, which is like a style in Japan where they heavily tan themselves and they have lighter lipstick and
Is that what she's supposed to be?
I think she's supposed to be a ganguro girl.
What?
I don't know.
There's
I
a
don't know.
French
She looks
in my
like my
version
wife, so.
of Persona. There's a French person in my school, so it's entirely.
Oh,
Yeah.
we have a French person
he's like
too.
he's like the
he
epitome
is.
of like weeb.
He's a weeb and he's incredibly stereotypically French.
To skip ahead to BB, it comes in later.
It would be bebe.
I love the how they use his broken Japanese, where they write out the Japanese word and then him like translating it himself, which is like if I were to go to Japan and I'm like, do you know where the Toshokan is? Like that's how I read it every time I see him say like, this is Tanoshi. It's very fun. Like that's how I imagine that Bebe is talking.
Yeah. One of the things with social links that I keep expecting is like some horrible consequences for me lying to everyone, because like I'm telling them exactly what they want to hear, but like 50% of the time it's a big fucking lie. Like when I'm talking to the old people and they're like, because I've been working with the old people a lot since I got Kenji to max, and the old people are like, oh, we're so worried about the persimmon tree, and then they hear about the petition and they're like, did you start that petition? And I'm like, yes, I fucking did. I didn't have any goddamn thing to do with that petition, but the old people don't know that. They think I'm a hero.
Yeah.
And
You're lying to them for them.
Yeah, exactly. I am expecting this to come back and bite me in the ass, but at the same time, I know that it won't, because that's not how video games work.
So I looked up Yuko on the Megami Tensei wiki, and it says it's implied she might be a Ganguro girl, but it doesn't ever say it in game. So
okay.
you could say she's half black, half Japanese, which is what I was thinking.
My headcanon was that she was a black girl.
That's totally a fine interpretation. That was just what I assumed because they're all in Japan. But yeah, I mean, I have no problem with saying she's black.
Yeah. So, so I had my frustrating date with Kinji. I stood up Kazu for nothing. I started to finally understand how social links work.
You're like, we're here now. This is the game. We've arrived to Persona 3. Here it goes.
Yeah.
Right? And
I
so,
get it.
after that, let's see, because right now we're doing... I even skipped the last time on. I just jumped in. So where we left off is we're in the middle of a week of research to find out what's going on with the ghost story to lead us up to our first dungeon. And on one of the nights I was going into Tartarus, and Junpei, why can't I be the leader? Iori says, why should I even be researching? Yuka's going to do it. Like, don't complain about you not being picked as the leader when you don't want to put in the minimum effort for this job right now.
Oh, good old Junpei.
So then after that, I hung out with Yuko on like a one-on-one date for the first time, because I had hung out with her a couple of times, because you unlock her by leveling up your athletic club, because I also found out while I was doing research that Kazu is in every athletic club, whichever one you pick. And and so is Yuko. She's the team manager of all of them.
They're busy.
Right? So like you level up Kazu to like level 3 or 4, and then you unlock Yuko's after that. And so like I had gotten a couple points with her from that, but this time she finally wanted to hang out with me one on one, and that's when I learned she loved to eat and all of that stuff, which was super awesome. Uh, she's completely apathetic to school. Like she didn't even fill out her test for the she was talking about. She was like, "Yeah, he gave me a test, and I just waited till the end and turned it in. I didn't even fill it out." But so on the 5th, Yukari wants to talk about the ghost story, and she says that there was no angry ghost involved, and she found that there were 3 victims over the same few days, and they all hung out together on the bad side of town. And where they hang out is behind Port Island Station, and she wants to go. In the game right here, it asks you questions to like see if you did the research. Did you guys actually do the research, or just come up to this point and guess?
I just came up to that point and guessed.
I knew. Surprise! I knew.
Yeah, of course you did.
I knew the whole time.
But yeah, I thought it was really cool because like all of the like unimportant NPCs that always hang around and just are like, man, I was feeling kind of tired, but I went to the restroom and now I feel great because I'm a tutorial NPC and this is the only thing that I can say. Even they were like, yeah, did you hear about the rumors? Like, I thought that was a really nice touch, and that's what you were supposed to be doing for the research, so you could figure out all of these answers if you talked to every person like in the school and you actually did your research, which I thought was like really cool for a video game. I was too busy hanging out with Kinji to have noticed any of that.
I like that the fact that they had made that a sort of secondary. They put like a lot of responsibility on the player, and because they didn't make it like a quest or something like that, they just passively mentioned it, and then they left the dialogue in the NPCs, but they left it up for the player to really figure it out, so that when Yukari came around and asked these questions, it didn't necessarily count against the player, but it also adds to the story when you get it right. But I had answered everything wrong with Yukari just because I was like, I wanted to know how she responds. I know who Yukari is when she likes you. I wanted to know who Yukari was when you didn't live up to her expectations, and it was really funny. She kind of talks to you like Junpei, and then she's just like, "You're a moron. What the fuck?" Like, like she's like, "No." I remember I said something like, it was the death note or something like that, like the person's last death note, and she was, and they were like, "Death note," and she was like, "Oh." Okay, no one died, and then I said like and then my second answer was we all go to the same school, and then she was like, she was like, yeah, I know that. Like,
that was what I answered too. I gave her the right answer the first time just by pure luck. Well, it was kind of like a process of elimination, and then the second one was like, I don't fucking know. So y'all go to the same school. I mean, that's something they have in common. She's like, yeah,
I like the fact that they had actually added that. It was like a difference in response.
Yeah. Because like it could have been
no, you got it wrong.
And like the scene as a whole could have just been a cutscene. Like they didn't have to do the whole research mini game type thing. Like there's no reward for doing good. There's no punishment for doing bad. Like it's just a scene, but they made it like have gameplay in a way that like a game that's mostly reading text and pressing the X button. Like it was still really cool how like they managed to gamify the like this is the Persona equivalent of like a QuickTime event in the middle of a movie in a different game.
Yeah, what it does is it added it the game from a design perspective highlights and really puts sociality to the front, and it even takes it down to moments like this where you have to be social with the classmates to have been able to answer these questions, and it only is there to self-gratify yourself, but you really have to kind of make the choice to do that research. Although I understand why, if people don't do it, why they're just like, fuck that shit, I don't give a shit, like it's not necessary.
Question. I know you just knew the answers, so you didn't do it. But for this part, like I've always been assuming that like when it's like, okay, you are at school, these are the 4 things you can do. Did it add like more people to talk to, or what? Like how did that work, or did you
I
not
didn't
even
even
go
go
and
and
look?
look. I didn't even go and look. I didn't bother to do
Yeah,
that
like
research because even in the main story, it's such a subtle it's such a
uh,
subtle addition to gameplay that
yeah,
I didn't think to like look at the differences. But I mean, this game covers a lot of detail. Like even down to the
uh,
NP or the MMO social link to this. This game is
uh,
really about details, and I didn't exactly
yeah,
think to search that.
yeah. So so Yukari wants to go, and she says, "Let's go tomorrow night," which would be on the 6th. The next day, I have another date with Yuko, and she says that she has a food addiction and she hates school. And I wrote in my notes, I was like, "I found my soulmate. Good thing she looks
Yeah.
just like my wife too." I was like, and then I also wrote, she's also the first person to not assume that me and Yukari are together, and she actually let me answer on it. You wouldn't think that would be that high of a bar, but
Yeah.
Yeah, in this game, that's pretty high standards.
yeah. So on the 6th, we go to the bad part of town, and I wrote Yuka is super afraid of ghosts that don't exist, but she's not afraid of like 15 punks threatening to shoot her. But she was like,
Yeah.
she was popping off at like this whole like alleyway full of like street youths, and she's just like, yeah, whatever, we can be here. It's a
My
free
favorite
country.
thing about the scene that we're about to talk about is the way that Junpei is like, I'm afraid of things that I can see, like bats and knives. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I was like, I really don't like Junpei because he is really problematic. But it's this that makes me feel like he understands me, like from a really
Yeah,
personal level.
that
It
is
was great.
that's very
Yeah.
relatable to me. Yeah.
Yeah. So then a one of the punks reacts to Yukari talking shit. Says we're going to post some pictures that'll make your daddy cry, which is really
Yucatan in
weird.
her past
Yeah.
life did some streaming online, and they were like, "We know about you, bitch."
Yeah, it was weird. So then, before Yukari can do anything, another one punches Junpei, and then my favorite part of this whole scene happened, where quote unquote guy from the
Yep.
other day walks in.
That is the best. That's like what
And-
you would call him if you were looking at this. Like, hey, that's the guy from the other day.
It's that guy.
in the
Yeah.
hospital.
Yeah.
Like that's exactly what I would call him in real life. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he shows up, and we're finally getting answers to our cliffhanger from episode 1. But he tells everybody to leave us alone. The punk tries to fight him, but the guy from the other day kicks his butt. He finally reveals his name, which is Shinjiro Aragaki.
Shinjiro.
Yeah. I call him Aragaki because for some reason I trip over his first name all the time. But
You could just call him Shinji.
Yeah, Shinji. But I'm not that good of a friend with him. Like I'm not
Yeah.
Oh, fair enough.
Akihiko
Yeah,
level
yeah.
friend with him. He's Aragaki-san. But
I'm just gonna let you know right now. If you, this is not so much of a spoiler. He is not a character that we recruit into the party, and I wanted him to be so bad when I first saw him. I was like, oh, he's an edgelord. He don't give a fuck. He's cool. Oh yeah, but no, he's not.
because spoilers for like 3 scenes from now, like it really seems like a recruitment scene because him and Akihiko are like hanging out having ramen, and Aki's like, no, like things are different now, you need to join us, like blah 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 blah, and then Shinji's just like, no, and just leaves.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh damn. So he scares the punks off, and they seem to know him, and they don't like him.
He like
And-
headbutts one of them.
Yep.
Yeah, like it's a really cool like.
I see
fight
that only
scene
in
as far
text, so I was just
Yeah.
reminded of it.
Yeah, it's a really cool. Like I keep saying sprite work, but they're models, they're not sprites. But like the in-game use, like in-game graphics, like they're not very like super detailed. There's not a lot of like stuff that they can do with it. It's not like it's a fully mocap scene. Like I think it's like small animations, but the stuff that they used in that scene were really really good. And I was like, oh, like this has me like as excited as I would be if this was an anime cutscene, but it's just their little models walking around
Yeah.
with a thing. But so Junpei is like, please notice me, senpai, and because he's like He's creaming his
Accurate.
jeans over Shinji, and Aragaki is calls us all idiots, tells us to leave. Yukari is like, "Well, I'm not going to leave. I'm trying to figure stuff out." And Aragaki asks about Akihiko, and if Akihiko asked us to come here, and we say no. Aragaki asks if we want to know the ghost story, and
Oh,
he
I
then tells
totally
us.
said Akihiko said we wanted to be there because I've gotten in the habit of lying to everyone.
Oh, so you just commit. You knew you planned this, right? Like you planned
Right.
this a few days, like the day before. You didn't even have to lie about it. You could have just been on. You could have just been like, yeah, no, fuck Akihiko. He doesn't know we're here. What's up? Like like you could have literally just said that. Like, and instead you were just like, yeah, like I don't. That's
Yeah, pretty
great.
much.
What?
It's so awesome. I wonder if, like, right now you're like, there's nothing bad about lying, and then we'll get to the like final cutscene, and me and Mike will be like, yeah, and so then like we triumphed over the main bad guy, and you're like,
And then you're just a
wait,
liar.
y'all did? I didn't.
yeah,
I got the
right.
liar's ending.
It's the bad ending for being a liar.
Yeah, I spent the whole game lying to everyone, and now it's coming back to haunt me.
So he tells us the story, and it was Fuuka that they were picking on, and people think that Fuuka is dead, and that her spirit is coming back to haunt her classmates, and they think that she's dead because she hasn't been home in over a week,
Mm-hmm.
and so then. We ask questions and stuff about that, and then right before he leaves, Aragaki says, quote, I get it, Aki. You're trying to make up for the past. It's you who can't let go. ... And then close quote, which is very like cryptic, and I really wish these two people would just sit together and talk with not in riddles.
Just
Like, know what's
just
going on.
talk
You mean,
like
like-
real people.
You mean like adults who point guns at their heads?
Oh
Casually?
yeah,
Yeah.
high schoolers who point guns at their heads.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Maybe this is appropriate.
Yeah. High schoolers can't talk about their feelings.
No.
So the next day, I had a social link with Kazu, and I picked the wrong thing again, and I realized that I have no idea what jocks want in real life or in virtual life. So
It turns out they want you to tell them to toughen the fuck up and stop being a big baby. Like,
Yeah, but,
that's
like,
what I
that's
learned
not
about
me.
Kazu. I know, it's not me either. But, like, I kept getting wrong answers when I was trying to console him. And then finally I was just like, why don't you just toughen the fuck up? And he was like, yes, that is what I want to hear. And I'm like, I hate you.
You're going to like rip your hamstring, and then your cousin won't be able to do
Yeah.
anything with you.
Well, I hope you injure yourself forever.
Right? So then we get to the full moon, and at lunchtime, all of C's shows up in the teacher's lounge, and we ask Ikoda Sensei about Fuuka, and the Natsuki, the girl who had talked about bullying Fuuka from before, she's there. And Mitsuru like turns on the bad cops
Oh,
setting,
yeah.
Well,
and it's like
before this, Mitsuru was like, "Hey, we're gonna have to do some research and investigation. Meet me in the student council room." And that's when you see her. At least in Persona 3 Portable, that's how it's portrayed because you don't walk there.
The student council room happens later. But for us, we go to the teacher's lounge first. Then after this thing at the teacher's lounge, we leave and go to the student council room.
Mm-hmm.
So they just added a set
Oh
piece
yeah.
for us.
No. I think you're right. Yeah,
Okay.
Natsuki was
Mitsuru-
there in the teacher's lounge. Yeah.
Yeah. So Mitsuru turns on her bad cop and is like, "What the fuck did you do to that poor girl?" And is like grilling her. And Ikoda steps in and is like, you're not the police, so
Yeah.
back off." And Natsuki knows that, so she opens up and is like, "I know that Fuuka is an honor student, but she has the same insecurities as all high school girls. So I know exactly what buttons to push to make her frazzled." And I'm like, "Oh, now I hate you, Natsuki."
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
like-
this shit hit me real hard.
Yeah, it's like I at first like because she has a talking head and like the other people in the game, other girls in the scene didn't. So like she has a talking head, and I'm just like, oh, maybe she'll like join our party, or like I'll get a social link with her later or something. But like the moment she said that, I'm like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Like, so
That's
so the day.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
sorry, I was going to say that resonated really strongly with me because when I was in middle school, I was an honor student. I was incredibly smart and good at schoolwork, and I got picked on mercilessly, and like,
Oh my gosh.
seeing a bully reacting like that, like, I don't know, I felt a little bit vindicated, like, but at the same time, I was like, you can go straight to hell. Like, I really
Yeah.
hope it is actually Fuuka who's been fucking with you because
When I was playing it, I remember playing it the first time, and I remember playing it like these time, or the last time, and then this time, and my reaction to it was just like, oh my god, this is the most dramatic like set of kids I've ever seen in my life. She's like sitting there like sobbing, right? Because it escalated really quickly. She explains how, she's like, we knew which buttons to press, so all we did was just lock her in the fucking gym, and then people were like, "Wait, what the fuck? Like, wait, you just locked her in a gym?" And then like, yeah, we didn't know that she would die or disappear.
she even mentioned about like, well, I didn't want to get in trouble if Fuuka had committed suicide.
Yeah, like I wrote that quote down because like holy shit.
Yeah.
Like
yeah, like she mentioned. Oh, that's right. Yeah,
person.
I just was seeing that last night. She does mention suicide.
Yeah, she's like I don't want to get in trouble if Fuuka commit suicide.
Like, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, like, oh, yeah, I completely get where you're coming from, bitch. Got it.
Yeah.
Sure. I get it. Sure. And what happens after that, Sam?
So after that, Maki, the other girl, was found at school. Natsuki went to let Fuuka out of the gym, but it was empty, even though the gym was still locked, and they've been looking for it ever since. They being the girls that all pick on Fuuka. But each night, another girl ended up in a coma, like Maki was, and they've never found Fuuka since. So she was coming to Ikoda to be like, look, all the other girls are in a coma. I think it's going to happen to me. Like, I need to get this off my chest. Like, I'm such a horrible person. And I'm just like, yep.
Yeah.
And,
correct.
and so Mitsuru is like, this isn't an exact quote, but I wrote it in quotes. She's like, Ikoda, you fucker, you had an Amber Alert and you just said that she was sick.
Yeah.
She's like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
for
like,
real.
I literally have notes about how she politicized. Like it, she sounds like me. Like I feel like I'm like, oh my god, Mitsuru was like the original social justice warrior. Like I have notes about how she calls out the principal for not doing his job.
Yeah.
And what I know, and at this point, I think that listeners at home and what you guys are probably piecing together now is that Mitsuru has some sort of power or leverage that does not necessarily belong to every student, and she kind of almost exists above the law in a lot of spaces, including like her being a manager, or she's like still a student, but she's still like monitoring the main character. She managed you guys for a while. She stayed outside of battle for a long time, mainly because she had to, but it's still a design choice to put her in that position. And she's the student body president, so she kind of exists in a really weird spot where she can afford to like make these comments and stand up and use her position of power. I can't believe I'm saying this about a game 10 years ago. She's like able to use her position of power to like really talk about things that are wrong and problematic. And I'm like, when will your favorite video game character ever do this? Like, when will they ever?
When will Mario be like, look, Bowser, you really only like Peach because she's pretty to look at, and that's kind of problematic.
Yeah, like you literally
throw a fireball.
Yeah, like you kidnapping women is just not okay. Like let's
And Peach, you realize you could be empowered to save yourself at some point.
Just,
like you don't have to wait for me. Yeah. Bowser's a pushover. I was gonna say that actually does come up later, though. That there's some additional explanation later in the month of why Mitsuru kind of has that power.
Yeah, because her dad owns the school. They actually said that in passing in like month one. That was back when I wrote down everything every NPC said.
Oh,
and
right.
one of them said like, oh, the
Kirijo.
Kinjiro, I think,
Kirijo.
Kirijo corporation owns our school, and I'm like, oh, that's Mitsuru's corporation, and so like I remembered that from way back then, but they really go into it here later.
Yeah.
But so after she's done grilling the fuck out of Yokota for just sweeping all this under the rug, Natsuki says that all of the girls heard a voice before they were leaving, which I don't know how she knows that, but thankfully she did because that's how Mitsuru knows that they have some form of apathy syndrome because that's how the Dark Hour calls people who are normally in a coffin. It just like they hear the voice, they get out of the coffin, they start walking to Tartarus, and then they're fucked. So
Mitsuru ends up telling her like, okay, holy shit, if you ever hear this, like, go to the fucking dorm. If you hear this voice, let us know. Don't leave the dorm. Like, and this is like when things start to like heighten in its tone, like when Mitsuru and the party starts to realize like, holy shit, people can be affected by apathy syndrome pretty quickly. And we don't, and there's no real way to gauge whether if a person has been affected by apathy syndrome until they show effects.
Yeah, because like these girls were dropping a different one each night, but it was all based on the same like root thing. So it wasn't like, okay, I'll go on Monday and then I'll get apathy syndrome. Then you go on Tuesday. It was like, no, they all went on Monday, but then they were dropping like flies at different times, and none of them had like symptoms beforehand or anything. So after she invites Natsuki to the dorm for protection, we then go to the student council room to discuss everything. And Mitsuru says we're going to infiltrate the school and find Fuuka. And we were all like, it's but the school becomes Tartarus, and she's like, well, yeah, I think Fuuka is trapped in Tartarus because since she was in school when the Dark Hour happened. And Akihiko says that it's probably only been 10 hours for her because the Tartarus only existed for 10 hours total in the last 10 days. So he doesn't think like she'll be dead. He doesn't think that she'll be dead. He thinks that she'll be scared because she's been stuck there for 10 hours, but not like hasn't eaten in 10 days.
Yeah.
So so what we're going to do is try and recreate what happened to her by all hanging out in the gym inside the school to try and find her. I wrote a note when we're getting ready. Ikutsuki isn't at the dorm. I wrote he's probably practicing a stand up. Then
it was important to note that when we do talk about this in the school, Junpei makes like a remark. He's just like, oh, don't worry about it. And then you're like, what the fuck? And then you're just like, you go to, and then I think the next thing is like us in the command room.
Yeah, and Mitsuru was like, all right, Junpei apparently has some explosives. Like, that's what she assumes.
Oh,
like,
yeah, like...
He's gonna blow up the fucking school, but I mean, we can get in. It's fine, I guess. Like, she's not like, let's find another way. She's like, I guess we're using explosives now.
I guess this is happening.
Yeah, it was, I think she said something like, she laughed, she was like, haha, yeah, but that's your thing. And then she, like, just, like, walked away or something like that. And I was just like, how is she cool with this? Like, how is, like,
right?
Out of everything, this is where she's like, sure. Like, yeah, explosives, why not? Like, I didn't get that.
Well, and then she walks away, and then Yukari asks, like, are there really explosives? And Junpei's like, nah, I just unlocked a door.
Yeah.
I don't know if this next part is a part of the English translation or if it was like this in Japanese. But Mitsuru speaks French all the time.
Yep.
Like, just she'll drop into it. And Junpei has never heard of it before, and he keeps asking if that's an English word, like throughout this next sentence and this next sequence. And I thought that was hilarious. Every time she's just like, "All right, bon voyage," she's like, "What's that?" And like bond boyish or whatever. Like, it's funny. So all the lights are off, and Yuko wants to turn them off, and she calls Stupe, and Stupe gets really mad about it. And Akihiko says that they cut the power to the school overnight, so they can't turn on any lights. And which I thought was like cool that they saved all of that stuff like that, but also like unnecessary. Like just turn the lights off when you leave. Like you don't have to like giant breaker cut the power to the school anymore.
Yeah.
But so we all have to find the key to the gym, and so she sends us three underclassmen to go and do it. But Junpei says he's going to look for test answers. So Mitsuru's like, "Never mind, you're staying with me." And Akihiko also is just like, "Oh, I can go." She's like, "No, you're staying with me too." Yukari and main character, you guys go.
You know what's funny
y'all
is
can
that
do
I
it.
had the choice to choose who went
You
with
did?
me. Yeah, I had the choice to choose Akihiko or Yukari. I chose Yukari because I was like, she's my girlfriend. But and I wanted to see her freak out about the dark.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Because in ours, like Yukari was with us. There wasn't a choice there. But so speaking of Yukari, so after we go downstairs, a security guard is like waves his flashlight in, like he's looking at us, and so we manage to hide from him. And then like while we're sitting there, cuddled together in the dark, her phone goes off and it freaks her out, and it like started to really like show me Yukari's character in this moment, because she's like horrified of like everything. Like she's a very scared person. Like that's her like personality, which like shows why she couldn't, like with the gun to her head twice. She couldn't awaken her persona because she was horrified of it.
The
But
visual,
now
like the idea of like just shooting the gun is a lot for her. Like,
Yeah.
and we better have a better understanding as to the reason why if this bitch is afraid of dark light, like of just like the dark.
Yeah, and so she like now that she's in this world, she's super protective of like everything, and she's super about like, all right, we got to go to Tartarus, we got to get this stuff down, which is like I can't remember what who said the quote, but the quote is like bravery is not being not afraid, it's being afraid but acting anyway, which like really is what Yukari's doing like in this whole thing. Like she's petrified of like dark spaces, and she's going into a giant towering maze filled with monsters, but she has to get protect people. And I really like, these are like silly scenes of like, oh yeah, she's afraid of the dark, but like their implications are like so like cool, and it makes me really really like Yukari's character.
I can only imagine how difficult it was for her to join C's in the first place.
Yeah, like imagine that first time that Little Miss scared of the dark is like, wait, why does my clock say 13 o'clock? What are all of these coffins? What is this crazy thing coming at me? And then Mitsuru's like, come with me if you want to live. Like I can't imagine what that moment was like for her, because like
I really wish we would have gotten to see that.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, that would, I mean, you find out a lot about these characters anyway, but Yukari is definitely brave. She's probably and I like how they made this character, like you really had to discover a lot about this character, and you still do have to discover a lot about this character to understand like why she is the way that she is. But I do enjoy, I do love the fact that Yukari was just over. I think she's a good heroine, and I like that about her.
Yeah, so after a little scene with her, we get into the teacher's lounge, and we find the key. There was an opportunity to say it was the morgue key, but just in case it was like secretly giving me social links with her, I tried to not like fuck with her like that. But like so far, we're not getting any. Michael is, because he gets his teammate social links from the very beginning, but we don't, and so I didn't want to like fuck with her right there, but just in case they were just hidden or whatever. But so we get the key, and we go to meet everyone in the main hallway. Junpei picks on Yukari for hearing her scream, and he's an asshole for it.
Yeah.
Like I wrote it down to like talk more, but like it's exhausting talking about how much of an asshole Junpei is at this point. So it's just like, as expected, Junpei is an asshole to Yukari.
Oh, but we should
And
mention though that when they first got into the school, I mean, he unlocked the door. There was a small sequence in which she calls him Stupe, and he goes, "I unlocked the door," and then she goes, "Oh, you did it before." Like, or Mitsuru goes like, "Oh, you did this before the school closed." Trey Beyond, and then she goes away with Akihiko. And it seems like Yukari can't, and I like that scene because it shows the, like how militant and utilitarian Mitsuru is. She gives credit where credit is due.
Yeah,
So like
yeah.
if you do a good job, you do a good job, and she's not going to take that away from you. And I appreciate that about her because she gave credit where credit was due, and it was funny to me because it showed like Yukari has an issue with Mitsuru and she has an issue with Junpei, and
Yeah.
she makes that very clear even when it's irrational to display it. Right? She's like, "Oh, I don't." She's like, "I don't get what's the big deal," and it's like, "Well, it's a big deal because he managed to sneak and still unlock a door for a place that they manually turn off the breaker lights for, like the obvious,
yeah.
and they have a security guard in this. I have not seen that in America ever, for a fucking high school.
I have seen that in high school. I went to a lot of shitty high
Oh my
schools.
god.
I think it's getting more common these days too.
Yeah, probably.
And so like it is impressive that he was able to like pull it off and be sneaky about it, and I like that Mitsuru recognizes that, and it's really interesting that Yukari, despite his he's an opportunist. I think that's a really good way
Yeah,
to describe
yeah.
Junpei. He's a real opportunist, and so I mean that kind of character trait comes with its positives and negatives, but when it's good, it's good, and and so it's really interesting that she didn't that she has a hard time seeing that in Junpei, despite the fact that without him doing that, they don't know how they would have gotten in the school at all.
Right.
So
Yeah, so after we all meet up, we decide to split up again, and we want to split up three people to go into Tartarus, two people to be our support on the outside. And Yukari wants to be the third, and I agree. But then Junpei is like, "Look, I fucked up last time. Let me make it up to you." And so we begrudgingly allow him to come with us to be our third. So it's me, Akihiko, and Junpei all go into Tartarus. Then right when we go into the gym, wait for midnight, it cuts to back at the dorm where Natsuki hears the voice and none of us are there. Ikutsuki isn't even there. No one stops her, and she just walks to the school anyways. And so back at Tartarus, like setting up her command center, Mitsuru can't sense us. She can't reach us on our phones or do anything like she normally does to talk to us. So, we just like every now and then she just hears like little blips, and one of the blips she hears is that Akihiko saying that we got separated. So then it cuts to the inside of Tartarus, and we finally get control of our character. And the dungeon itself starts, and you're all alone by yourself. And I wrote down that the floors seemed like they were designed and not just a randomly generated floor like normal, but I don't know if that's actually true or not. They just seemed more like dungeony than normal.
you mean when you yeah, no, this specific sequence will look the same, I think, through
For everybody?
for any playthrough. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I thought that was a really cool touch where they were like, yeah, we want this part to be the same. Because, like, if they had randomly generated it, I could see you ending up on one of those floors that's like, oh, there's no monsters here. Like, the door's right in front of you. Just congratulations, move on up. Like,
Yeah. Also, though, like, it was in a different part of the school, so maybe just that part of Tartarus looked like that.
That's
yeah,
very possible. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so this is our first like true dungeon because last full moon the dungeon we went to was 3 cars in a row and that was it. So the little boy shows up and says that there's more than one ordeal that we have to fight tonight, and says that we need Fuuka's help. Then he vanishes. I wrote down that fighting by yourself was pretty fun. It felt like more was like the stakes were higher to like do all of the like weaknesses and stuff.
Oh, I skipped most of those
because-
fights.
I most of them were really easy. I don't know if they made it like, look, maybe you've been relying on your party, so maybe they like dialed it down and they were super easy. I don't know. They were fun, but really easy. And I wrote down this is where I decided to make a change in my playthrough of Persona. I was like, I think I'm over leveled again, so I need to find and do more social links. I spent too much time in Tartarus because I was going like twice a week for the first 2 months, and I think I went only 2 times this whole month. But so as you're going through and you're exploring things, you keep hearing Fuuka saying like, "Hello, is anybody there?" And you don't even like respond. And I'm like, well, that's rude. You just keep walking, and so you finally make your way through that bit, and you meet up with the guys and Fuuka. She says she's really confused, has no idea what's going on, but she could sense where all the shadows were, so that's how she was staying away from them, which is the same power that Mitsuru has. So Akihiko gives her a quote-unquote good luck charm, which is the gun, which she's like, holy crap, like, why are you giving me a gun? And he's like, it's not a real gun, which is the first time in game that it's said that the evokers weren't a real gun.
Yep.
So like, if you were playing this blind and you didn't have Michael spoiling it in the first episode that they weren't real guns, like, you would legitimately think these people's superpowers are given by killing themselves. Like, this is the first time where you're like, no, it just looks like one type thing. Which
I mean, that was like, what I thought when I first started playing. I'm like, why are they shooting themselves in the head?
Yeah. So
because I thought it was like really understood that they really weren't because they were still alive.
Yeah, but like, and, like when you're summoning a demon, like the normal like bullets kill you kind of is out the window. So like maybe it's like, oh, I kill myself, and then as I'm killing myself, the demon instead comes through and heals me, and I'm not actually dead. Like,
yeah, like that was kind of what I got to.
Like.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Okay, no, I mean,
Michael's like, wow, you guys are dumb.
No, that's a lot. No, I'm just saying, like, that. I mean, that is definitely. I guess that could have happened. You know, that could have been a reason why, a lore reason why they could have made it that. But no, like, it's an evoker. Yeah.
Yeah. So, on our way down, Tartar suddenly has windows, and we can see the full moon, and everyone then realizes, oh shit, all of our boss fights have been on the full moon, which like was kind of annoying that it took this long for them to figure it out, because in the metagame, like, we have a counter every like on our screen at all times that tells us when the next full moon is going to be. So it was like the game mechanics kind of ruined this story beat. Like, I think it would have been cool if if he didn't have the part where it just said next, if it just had the phase of the moon there.
Yeah, if he didn't include the icon until he mentioned this.
Yeah, until he mentioned it, then you had the next, like, where you could count the days. Like, that would have been a really cool, like just story bonus thing, because it would have been like the investigation, where like it wouldn't have changed anything, but it would have given you the opportunity to figure it out yourself. Yep. Which I thought would have been like one like more cool thing. I'm not mad that they gave me the countdown. It's one of those things where when you figure out let me back up. In movie making, when you're trying to do like a whodunit, you want the person, if they figure it out, to figure it out the scene before your main character does, because if you figure it out in the very first scene, you then think that your main character is stupid, because you're like, I've already figured it out. Why are we going for 45 minutes where you don't know anything? Mm-hmm. Like, why is this taking you so long?
And it makes the movie seem predictable.
Yeah, so like here at this point, we like this scene and then like another scene here in a bit, like they're all like rehashing the full moon of it all, and it's like a little like of a slog to get through, because like I know, because it was on my screen. Like, it's always like I had a little boy come up and talk to me, and then it's like, it's in 7 days. So I had 7 days to the full moon. Like, it's obviously a thing, but
that was the other thing, was that, you know, like, your character has this little boy coming up and talking to him a week before the full moon about how it's about to be a full moon and there's about to be more shadow activity. Why does main character not go and tell everyone about this?
Because I think that the main character is literally mute except for the things that you pick in your social links. I think he absolutely says nothing. And
See, but that's the reason why this
character.
guy's fucking weird.
Yeah,
Like this main character is
super
just
weird.
so odd. Is that he's like really quiet. He doesn't really say much.
He's not gonna he's not gonna say anything unless he has to.
In very many ways, this Persona 3, this Persona character is like one of the last that remained as abstract as other Shin Megami Tensei games are.
Yeah,
and so
he's the last one that's main character and doesn't have a name. Like even though Hiro's name is Hiro, which is so like, and not the Japanese name Hiro, it is the English word hero. But at least he has a name in Persona 4.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But let's see. So we everyone realizes the full moon is important, and we get a call from Mitsuru, and she says that there are a lot of shadows. We need to be careful. Then Fuuka senses a huge shadow and senses that it's attacking someone. So we run down to the front to help, and Fuuka awakens her persona, and it saves Mitsuru and Yukari. I wish I would have wrote more about that scene, but those are the only notes that I had. I think Scarlet was like trying to wake up at that point. Do y'all have any more notes on her awakening to like flesh that out? Any?
Not really. I mean, the weird part about the awakening is that nothing's really explained yet about like why they elect to take the fucking gun to their head.
Yeah.
Right? Like nothing tells them to necessarily do that. So when I see this girl who's like lost in Tartarus for like 10 hours or whatever, I'm inclined to think like, where did you get this? Like, who told you to do this? Like, I guess Akihiko gave it to her, but and she knows that it's not real at that time. But who told her to do that?
Yeah, it also because like it's not like Akihiko off screen told her how it was as y'all were walking down or something. It's not like it's an implied thing because they hang a lantern on it, and she's like, "Step back, bitches! I got this!" And she grabs the evoker, and Akihiko's like, "I fucking told you, it's not a real gun." And she's like, "I know." And then she awakens her persona. So it's like
oh, I don't even see. I forgot about that. That scene. Like I didn't have that here. It was just her saying like, "I have to protect my friends," and then she just takes it.
And then she just does it.
Her persona is like this big thing with like a clear glass ball for its lower body, which is a shield that can protect people. So she gets Mitsuru and Yukari and holds them in there, and then sends the boys off to go and fight. Emperor and Empress is a pretty cool boss mechanically. I just was way over leveled, so I didn't get to do it. Their gimmick is that they completely absorb half of the elements, and then they block or they are weak to the other half, and that changes like every turn or so when they do paradigm shift. But because I was super overpowered, they didn't. I only had time to scan once with Fuuka, because that's supposed to be the thing, is to like reinforce how the scanning works. Whereas like you want to scan every turn to see what they're weak to, so that you can go and fight them correctly. But I only was able to scan once because I scanned Empress, and she was weak to Zio, which I used, and I knocked her down. And then Emperor blocked my Garu, but Junpei then used Cleave on the Emperor, which he was weak to, and so then I had an all-out attack, and I killed them with my all-out attack on turn 1. So I didn't get to see the paradigm shift. I didn't get to see all of that stuff. So, like I was like looking up stuff about it because I had forgotten to take notes during that fight, which is why I probably didn't have the thing about Fuuka. My phone had died, and I was too in the zone. So I was looking up like a Let's Play to like refresh myself, and I saw like the actual fight. I'm like, oh, that's really awesome. I thought that it was like super easy because all I did was just like do it once or whatever. I was super duper overpowered there.
I was not. I wasn't underpowered, but I was at like the right level, so I could have talked about it. But yeah, it was a really interesting mechanic. it didn't occur to me to continue scanning them after I had the first time, even when they were doing paradigm shift. But even then, like, I had enough different things in my arsenal that I was able to hit their weaknesses every time. And they came down relatively easily. Like, it wasn't a super, like, you know, one hit KO fight like it was for you, but it also wasn't like the hardest thing I've ever come up against. Like frickin' level 36 of Tartarus boss.
I don't even remember that Tartarus boss. I haven't written a single note about Tartarus boss because I kind of just like punch them until they die.
Level 36 of Tartarus boss has no weaknesses that I've been able to find. And it's like Mitsuru explains it's a guardian. So I guess it has...
Which one does he look like?
It's like the big statue thing holding like a baby, and yeah, I can't remember what it was called. Yeah. But anyway, it does a ton of damage with its electric attacks. It poisons, and
I remember the poison one.
It has a fuck ton of health and high defense. So I have not been able to kill that yet.
Oh man, I happen to just have, from all my times going to Tartarus 2 times a week, I had a lot of disc poisons for that one, so I just was like chugging those every turn to stay alive.
I created a persona that had Posumdi. I think that's the one that dispels poison.
Yeah, I have that too as Asparus.
Yeah. I have this thing in RPGs where I know that like support. Like, I know that support spells are, like, how you win, like, Pokemon tournaments. Like, I know that those are the key, and you should always do that. But ever since I was a little kid, it'll be like, do you want this one to lower their defense, or do you want this one that hits for 1 HP? And I'm like, take that fucking attack. Like, fuck everything else. I want the attacks. Like, I don't think I've cast a support spell that's not Dia this whole game so far.
Those support spells will be much more important later, don't worry.
Yeah, I'll probably have to use it, but so far I just punch and keep punching. So so after the battle, Fuuka collapses. She's okay. She's just exhausted, which probably happens every time someone evokes their persona for the first time. Because like I went to a coma and she had to go to the hospital too. But now that I'm thinking about it, Yukari didn't go to the coma. Didn't have a coma, and she still joined your party like it was no big deal. So maybe not. Natsuki comes in, and she apologizes to Fuuka and is like, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry." Blah 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 blah. And then Yukari's like, "But wait, won't she not remember this because she doesn't have the potential?" And Mitsuru's like, "I feel that'll be okay anyways." So Fuuka goes to the hospital, and we all go back to the dorm. The next day, Yukari is concerned that we only like Fuuka because we need her, because this is more like looking into like what Yukari is about. Is Yukari, like, she's living in hell? Like, she's smiling and she's having a good time about it, but like it's her worst nightmare right now because she's afraid of the dark, and she goes into the Tartarus like every single day, and so she doesn't want Fuuka to do that just because we want her to do that, which I thought was a really cool bit of character development for Yukari.
She seems really suspicious of Mitsuru for a lot of it, too.
Yeah. I feel that will probably come up. Like, I feel they're going to butt heads eventually.
Yeah.
I'm excited for when that happens.
Well, I mean, Mitsuru did ask the question pretty quickly. And I can understand why a character would be like, why don't you give this girl some space?
Yeah.
And so I like the fact that they implemented that for Yukari, like some suspicion. She just, it feels like she really cares about doing the right thing.
Right, definitely.
And on a larger scale, this game, like, tries to get one step ahead of you for the things that you say out loud to your TV. So you're like, yeah, but earlier I was like, but I thought the school was Tartarus, and then Akihiko was like, but doesn't the school turn into Tartarus? And like here it's like, damn, like let the girl breathe, and then Yukari is like, damn, let the girl breathe, and it's like it makes the characters feel really real because the things that you, the person, are having the responses to, the characters then have those responses. So let's see. I
I just realized
uh
the only note I have for the whole thing where they were in the principal's office is typing out a code as a piece of shit.
yeah,
I just
he
noticed
really is.
that. Anyway, go
He
on.
really is. So at this point, for like the rest of the month, like there's like I think two things of plot that really
Yeah.
happen. The rest of it is all social links. So the first social link that I did was I finished up Kinji's thing. Did you also finish it,
I did, yeah.
Eli?
Thank God.
Okay.
I'm so done with that kid.
Yeah.
I mean, he
So
got better, but I still
yeah,
I'm done talking to him forever. Like, this is
but
how friendships work in video games. You get to a certain point and then you never have to talk to him again.
but like I also like feel really bad for him. Like it's one of those things where it's like for 9 steps of the social link, you're like you're gross. Like why are you like trying to marry your rapist? And then you get to the end where he's like, I'm going to move in with Emery, and we're going to go and have all this great time. Then he runs into her and sees her with another man. And she's like, I didn't think he would get this attached. And the man's like, it's okay. I'll go and pick you up and we can get married tonight or whatever. And he just sees like, oh, I was played like a fucking fool. Like I was just her like boy toy. This is like horrible or whatever. I'm like, I feel so bad for you, but you also shouldn't ever ask out your teacher. So it went from giving me like straight up fuck you Kinji to like a weird like blah
To
about
me,
him. Like
it was like my thought from the beginning was they're not actually in a relationship. He's just reading way too much into this. And that kind of like solidified it for me when he saw her with this guy, and it seemed like what she was saying was, I didn't know he felt that way about me. I thought we were just being friendly with each other because we were doing these private lessons or whatever. Like that's what I got out of it, was she had no idea that he was so
Yeah.
attached to her. Whereas Kenji was an idiot. And
Yeah.
he was, like most high schoolers do, reading way too much into things. And
yeah, and maybe I'm being a high schooler and reading too much into it as well. But it felt to me like maybe there was like a little bit, but it was just like we like hung out and like we're kind of flirty like one time type thing, and not like a we are actually going to get married thing.
yeah,
But I don't know.
I mean, that could have been it. I feel more comfortable reading it as Kenji's just a moron, and like they didn't actually have any discussions about being a couple because he's a high schooler and he's not a real person yet, and high schoolers don't know how to talk to people. So he never really had a serious discussion about their relationship with her and just kind of made assumptions, like you do when you're in high school. But yeah,
Yeah.
I was so glad to be done with him.
Yeah, me too. I'm glad that was over.
So go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say he turned out okay in the end. So
Yeah.
go ahead, Michael.
I finally ran into Kenji for the first time, and that is through the storyline of tennis with Rio. As you are building your social link with Rio, I think around the 4th level, like it's just you and her at this practice because she has anger issues and she's stubborn. And Kenji comes and he's just like, hey, can you do my homework for me, or at least tell me what this is about? And first I'm like, oh my god, I didn't even know you were at this school. I thought you were in a different life, in a different time somewhere. What the fuck are you doing here? I did not sign up for this. But he asks Rio to do his homework, And she's like, yeah, sure, but what do I get out of it? And then he's like, I don't know, what do you want? She says food. He goes, okay. Um, and that's all I know about Kenji. So I'm pretty happy that I don't know anything about him at all.
He is
right
a
now,
problematic child.
Yeah, the social links for me include the library committee, the student council, Junpei, Yukari, the old people, and I'm working on Mitsuru.
Okay. I have at this point I have Kinji, Kazu, Yuko, and student council. Those are the ones that I had up at this point. I have since added Bebe, the foreign exchange student, music club, and I got the gourmet king. I got the little girl, and I got the monk. I think that's it. So I think I'm up. I went from 4 to 9 in 1 month. So I'm juggling a lot right now.
I've been focusing on just a few at a
and
time.
the old people. Old people.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry. So I'm up to 10.
I've been focusing on a few at a time. So I took a melon bread to the little girl at the shrine, and she was like, I want something round and hot and soft. And she wouldn't accept the melon bread. Like, I couldn't do anything. So I guess that's not the right thing to take her.
Yeah. So we were actually wrong on that one. I thought it was the melon bread and you get like a charm point or something, but she's actually a social link.
Right.
And you take her a takoyaki from Octopia.
Oh, okay.
You bring her that, and then she asks for a Mad Bowl, and you bring her a Mad Bowl, and then she becomes a social link.
So, I've been hanging out with the old people and Kazu mostly. I really like the old couple. I think they're really sweet. I wish Bunkichi would ask me before he shoves things in my pocket, but other than that, I really like them both. I think their story is really sad and but also heartwarming. It's bittersweet.
I went back to them only once because they were the people when I was like, all right, I'm going to do more social links. Like Kinji came up and is like, hey man, let's hang out. And I'm like, fuck you. I already maxed you. I don't care. I'm going to go and meet new people. So I went there. But then they unlocked Bebe, and then the next day I unlocked Music Club and like all that stuff. So I think I've only done one more with old people.
Oh, my other social link that I started, the Mysterious Boy.
Oh yeah.
So after you finish the dungeon, there's a little bit the next day where Fuuka officially joins. It's not the next day; it's like a couple days later. But Fuuka officially joins, and she takes over the support position that Mitsuru used to have. So Mitsuru joins your party. So she's like, all the victims regained consciousness, and they had their apathy syndrome cured, which seemed like it should have been a big deal, but no one reacted to it. So I wrote it in my notes, but I don't know if that'll actually be a big deal later. Because if people could be cured, then this shouldn't have been an epidemic that we're having to fight. Fuuka is like, oh, everything's my fault, and Yukari is like, it's not your fault, but you also don't have to be here. And Fuuka's like, no, I want to get out of my house. Please let me live here. Like, I don't want to. I want my old life to be gone. Like, I want to have purpose, and which I thought was really cool. And then we see Fuuka at school, and she's getting picked on, but then Natsuki comes to her aid and is like, hey, let's come hang out with me, which I thought was like a cool like button for that scene where it's like, yeah, Natsuki's a horrible person, but like she realized it and she's trying to make amends, which I thought was cool.
So as someone who's been through that, my initial reaction was, oh, Natsuki is totally playing with you. She's gonna like pretend to be your friend,
but it's a video game.
Yeah, no. Yeah. I was like, nope, that's probably not gonna happen. It's gonna be fine. But yeah, I just had that moment of like, oh God, no.
Right after that is when the boy wakes you up there in the dark hour. He's like, by the way, I want to be your friend. My name is Pharos.
That's the one power that I wish I had, was just like wake people up in the dark hour. And so I'm like, by the way, I want to be your friend.
I want to be your friend. Here's a tarot card with the Grim Reaper on it.
Yeah.
Enjoy. Thanks. Bye. That's how it would be me.
So, the one that I spent the most time, so like, I actually wrote a chart because like I was serious about my social links this time around. So I wrote a chart for like who I could have things with each day. And on Wednesdays is the only day that you can hang out with Yuko by herself. So it doesn't matter what happens on Wednesday. Like they could be like the full moon is on a Wednesday. Everybody has to meet up, and I'm like, fuck you, I got a date because I'm trying to make her my girly girl. And so like I was going through doing everything there. So I did the most with Yuko this month. I really like her storyline because, like I said, she is like super apathetic about school stuff. The stuff that like in the end isn't super important, but the things that are important to her are like these kids that live in her building. She's like really protective of them, trying to be like their teacher, their coach, guide them through things. On one of the days, the kids say, "Oh, we wanted to be playing at the playground, but we're having to play at the mall because the sixth graders kept kicking us off the playground." And she's like, "Fuck those sixth graders! I have keys to the school. Come and just run on the track field instead." And like I really liked her stuff so far. So I did a lot with her. I've also done a lot with the monk. Did you unlock the monk, Eli?
I have no idea where to meet him. I'm guessing at the shrine.
No, not at all. This is why I really like him. So on one of these days during the month, the girls talk about this club. The two rumor girls that always say rumors every morning. They talk about this monk that shows up late night at Club Escapade in Polonia. So if you so when it dumps you out at your dorm at night, I don't know if you know this, you can leave and go to Polonia Mall.
Oh,
to go and do
right.
two more stuff at night. So if you go into Club Escapade and go upstairs, there's this monk there. And he to unlock his social link, he asks for a drink, but you're underage, so you can't buy him one. So you go downstairs, like talk to the bartender, and the bartender's like, "Well, look, if you we're really swamped right now. If you go get everyone's orders for me, I'll go and I'll take a drink upstairs." So it's a tiny mini game of like memory and knowing whose drink is what.
Huh.
So then you unlock his social link, and the monk is like a super drunkard that like his wife and kid left him, and so he's just like hates his whole life pretty much, and he's just up there drinking his life away every day, and he's like really sad, obviously, but like you can tell he like wants to be a father figure even though he doesn't have the chance to anymore. So he's like really gruff and like, "Man, you're going to go get expelled. I'm going to kick you out of this club. Like, you don't even need to be here, yada, yada, yada." But then like, still gives you like really good advice and stuff. And I really like that like tortured parental dynamic. It's probably because I have a kid. But I really liked his social link. I didn't do enough with Bebe to know if I like his or not. The Gourmet King just kind of feels like a kid who has no self-esteem. And did you unlock the Gourmet King at all?
No.
Okay. So he asks you a bunch of questions about the restaurants in the area, which, because I hung out with Kinchi and Kazu all the time, I knew all the answers. So you answer those questions, then you give him one of the odd morsels that you can find in the first block of Tartarus.
Oh, good thing I've kept those.
Yeah, so you give that to him, and he's like, "Oh, I've never tasted this before. You must be a gourmand yourself." And so then you go to different restaurants with them. So far, it's pretty boring. I'm probably going to like keep going with it just because it's part of the game, and I want to see it to the end. And every other one has had a holy fuck moment. This one just hasn't happened yet, so I'm kind of iffy on them so far.
I did hang out with Maya a little bit more in
I haven't hung out with Maya. Haven't hung out with Maya at all. What's happening with her?
She like her mother's been complaining to her about getting her a husband, and she really doesn't want it. She's like, "I don't want to get married until I'm like 40." And she's at least 21 because actually, I'm not sure if that's the drinking age in Japan. I believe it is.
It might be 18.
It might be 18.
She's
old enough. She's old enough to drink because she's often very drunk. She talks about how drunk she's gotten, and like she went to a bar one time and like fell over drunk outside, and some guys were like, "Oh, you're never gonna get a man like that," and she told him to STF you. So she obviously has kind of a difficult life, and is feeling kind of blah about about life in general. It seems like she's not getting what she wants out of life, but I think she also kind of doesn't know what she wants.
Yeah, I really like Maya. I just have too many friends now, and everyone wants to hang out on Saturday, and I'm like, damn it, I need the social links. And so
The only
one of
time
these
you can
days-
hang out with Maya is on Sundays, and everybody keeps asking me to do shit on Sundays.
Yeah, so like I now have 10 social links, so I have 10 people calling me every week, like, hey, let's hang out next Sunday, and so
You really have
I
to
haven't had the
juggle it.
chance to hang out with her. So yeah, now that I've maxed Kenji, if Kenji ever asks, that'll be a no, and if he's the only person that asks, then I'll be able to hang out with Maya. But that's about it.
Yeah.
For her, for me. Which culture club did you join?
Music.
Music. What about you, Mike?
I don't think culture club. I haven't joined a culture club.
Oh, so I think
But
they
what are
gave
the
that to you.
options?
So I had music, art, photography, maybe science. I don't know if science was part of it or not, but yeah,
I think it was music, art, and photography only.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah, I haven't chose those yet.
okay, yeah, because I know they just changed the dates on all the social links for a portable
Oh
game.
wait,
It's almost
fashion was available as well.
fashion isn't a part of the culture club. That's just what Bebe is doing.
Oh,
so you
okay.
don't make that choice.
That would have
That's just-
been how I got to. Okay,
yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah, you get that. You unlock Bebe on like step 4 of the old people,
Right,
And then
right.
at that point, I think you can get Bebe earlier because the note on the door is like you can't read this because it's not in Japanese. You have to get your academics up. And by the time I got my academics up, the note said, "I'm sorry, you missed me." So I think there's a way to get Bebe like first week of school if you study all the way type
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
But I got it through the old people. So let's see. I also joined the music club, and yeah, it is Keisuke. That's his name. I finally found it.
Okay, awesome.
I like Keisuke because he's like really caring about people and self-deprecating. But so far, the music club is just a thing I do on Mondays.
There was some additional plot that happened like later in the month. That was we saw. I wrote it down as Jesus, some nerd, and Lolita tried to kill a guy.
Oh yeah, I did see that one.
Before that, we saw a cute Shiba pupper.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah,
My
we saw
little
the
favorite
puppy.
Shiba pupper. Yeah.
Yeah, the dog is so cute. That the dog was on the 20th.
The dog belonged
I
to a
wrote-
priest who had died.
Yeah, the priest passed away about 6 months ago. He was hit by a car, and now Koromaru, the pupper, does the Futurama dog thing and sits by the
Oh my
scene of the
god,
accident.
yes.
Like every day, I'm just like, I want to protect you and save you, dog.
Yeah, I like that sequence just because like I had a Shiba Inu, and so like that dog is a Shiba, and I'm like, oh yeah.
They're really cute dogs.
Yeah,
I'm
they
not
are.
I'm not particularly a dog person, but I do like Shiba Inus.
So that day with the doggo, Ikutsuki wanted to talk to us, and he points out that each shadow that we fought has been in a part of a different arcana in the order, like on the cards. They all have like the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the first one we fought was the priestess, was the magician on the first night. Second one was the priestess. Then we fought the emperor and the empress, and he says that means that there's eight more that we have to fight.
Yep.
And he thinks that the shadows must be up to something because they don't normally act predatory like this. And then on the 22nd was during the dark hour when Jesus showed up. A teenager finds himself awake. Some weird Jesus-looking hippie dude comes over to him. He has a quote-unquote smart-looking guy friend, and they know who the teenager is. They've done their research and stuff. They say that they're there to get revenge for someone. The teenager tries to run away, but the hippie shoots him. the other person there is a quote unquote girl in a dress, and she says he's not dead. The group leaves because they decided this is close enough. Uh, and the rumors the next day were of a revenge request website where you can go in and be like, I want revenge on Eli. And then the next day, Michael would read it and be like, all right, I'm going to go kill Eli.
Oh.
And yeah, so that's the big part of the plot there.
Please, no one
So,
go to this revenge request website and request revenge against me.
yeah,
Even if I have really hurt you, let's talk about it. Please,
right?
just
Like, let's be adults.
yeah, contact me. You can message me on YouTube or something. I'll give you my Tumblr.
So then, on the 23rd, Aragaki and Aki are at the ramen shop, like we mentioned, and he's like, "Please come back. Things have changed." But Aragaki is like, "No." Then let's see. This is all social link stuff. So the little girl's story is that her parents are divorced and she blames herself, which really like hurts me. She's like I go to hang out with her. She's like, "Can we go out to eat today? I love going out to eat. Mom and Dad don't argue when we go out to eat." And
Oh,
I'm like, no, no, poor Maiko. But
Wow, yeah, it gets pretty heavy.
yeah, like it's like with her, it starts heavy. You're like, this is going to be the best social link. I'm going to be a big brother to this little girl. Everything's going to be good. There's going to be some bullies. I'm going to stand up for her. It's going to be wholesome. This is an after school special. Everything is great. And like right out the bat, she's like, "Am I a bad person because my parents are getting divorced?" And I'm like, I can't do this.
Yeah, that's really intense. I'm like, oh, you need to go back home, little girl.
Right. So that's me hanging out with the monk. Then at student council, somebody was smoking at school, and Hidetoshi is trying to figure things out, but he's not going through Mitsuru, which is making everybody mad. And then more stuff with the monk that I've already talked about. More stuff with gourmet making. I had a date with Yuko, and I gave her a doll, and she hated it. So that's when I started looking up to make sure that I want to keep ruining that out.
there's really not
Um,
much else that happens because
Yeah,
Yeah.
even on
it's
July
not.
1st, nothing really
Yeah.
goes on.
So on the 29th, it looks like is the last real thing. Fuuka and Yukari are talking, and Yukari asks Fuuka to use her power to scan the school. She came across something strange that because 10 years ago, a lot of students missed school for some reason. And Yukari thinks that was another outbreak of the shadows in the dark hour and stuff.
Hmm.
And that Mitsuru doesn't answer any questions about where Tartarus comes from. So Yukari thinks that something weird is going on, and Fuuka agrees to help. And then on the 30th, Pharaoh showed up, said, "I'm a week from the full moon," and that was pretty much everything that happened. I think we'll probably at the end of the game, probably when we get through all of the social links, we'll probably like do a retrospective on like the whole chunks of it instead of like going in each time. Like we'll mention things like, "Oh, I did some of this," but we'll go into like detail when all of us have actually finished it. I think will probably be the best way to do it. Like we've all finished Kinji, so we can talk about Kinji for the rest of the time. But we'll do like with like the old people and stuff. We'll talk about their whole story when we're both done with it.
Okay, sounds good.
But yeah, that was it. It was I was afraid we wouldn't be able to fill out the episode, but we talked for an hour on that dungeon, and we talked for 26 minutes now on the social links. So we found a way to have a lot to talk about, which was awesome. Was there? Forgot this last episode, but what was each of y'all's favorite part of this play session? I know it's a little weird because most of it was social link, but
I like how I see more of. I like the incremental. I like the incremental increase in character development. I like how they designed it in this game.
as like for example,
Mitsuru showing her power over time, Yukari displaying her insecurities over time, and I mean because for the most part they keep Akihiko and Junpei pretty consistent. But even Akihiko has a little bit of mystery that we have to unravel.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that.
What was your favorite part?
Yeah, I really like seeing Yukari, more of her, and what makes her tick, and what we talked about earlier about how it's clear she's very afraid, but she does it anyway. I think though that Fuuka is quickly becoming my favorite character because I identify very heavily with her.
Yeah, I'm really loving her as well.
Yeah.
The only thing I don't like about her is I don't like the voice acting she does as much as everybody else.
I'm not super into her voice actor.
The fact that she's now the voice actor we hear the most, I'm just like,
yeah.
Like, there are 3 enemies left. I'm just like,
I much preferred hearing Mitsuru.
Yeah, but I'll deal with it.
Yeah.
My favorite part was during one of her social links, I held Yuko's hand and she smiled, so that was pretty great. But yeah, that pretty much wraps us up here. We'll come back on August 1st in game for next week. I think we have more exams, so it shouldn't be as much of a mad dash to the finish as it was for everybody this week. But yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
For RPG Book Club, I have been Sam Allman.
I have been Michael Rodriguez.
And I've been Elias Sailor Eli Warren.
And we'll see you next week, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.